Hello, welcome to Meant to Move. I am your host, Vanessa Leone. For those of you who don't know me, if this is your first episode with us, welcome. This is number 20 for us, and I'm really excited and happy to be with Papa Producer, as I know him as. Some of you will most likely know him as Nick Leone, my dad.
That's me.
That's Dad. And I threw him in the deep end again. He didn't think that he was going to get another go on the podcast. And I'm like, Dad, we're going to record again. And so he's here, which I love that about him. I love that. And so the reason why I wanted him on here is because he does a lot of work behind the scenes. He re-listens to each episode before they go to air. He does my transcripts. He does all the summaries. And so I wanted to know, from your perspective, Papa, what has it been like for you to listen to all of these guests and episodes? Like, has anything changed from you from when we first started doing this to like now?
Well, thanks for having me on. Well, I think I'm thanking you, but I'm not entirely sure because, like Vanessa, like you just said, that this was a little bit unexpected. I wasn't really expecting to be on again after that first introductory episode, but anyway, here I am. So behind the scenes, it is sort of a bit of a different thing for me to be doing. So it's been entertaining. I'm retired, as Vanessa probably told me, but it takes up a few hours a week, which is good. It keeps me occupied and my mind active. And I'm actually listening to the guests and reading through it. I am learning as well. I think listening to the guests, they're very sort of informative and they each have their own perspective on the industry, on fitness, health and so forth. And I think I definitely take away at least a little something from each and every episode. And I'm really entertained by a lot of the guests. I think Vanessa's a very good interviewer and she does draw the best out of them. I am biased, but I think she does a good job there and they seem to sort of interact very well. But I just love how a lot of them have come through the traditional paths, I guess, through education and, getting their exercise science degrees. But a lot of them have come from really interesting sort of backgrounds. Emma from musical theatre, which it's crazy. Gary, that was the ski boot fitter, and
Guillaume also was a ski boot fitter. So there's two ski boot fitters.
Must be a specific pathway, perhaps.
Fitness.
And Ian O'Dwyer was a plumber, I think. Yeah, anyway, there's probably others as well, but too numerous to mention. But anyway, so I am enjoying it, but I also enjoy the fact that they come from different backgrounds, but they all have obviously immersed themselves in education, trying to, make themselves better at what they're doing and trying to make their clients better, I suppose, educating their clients. And they all have a common message, and that it's an overall holistic approach to what they do rather than just traditional methods. So I do like that. So anyway, I think, what did you name this episode? What we've learned or something like that, Ness?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a bit undecided. We can change it. But essentially, my idea for this episode was to kind of go back through and have a think about some really memorable moments or lessons. But then also, you pointed out, Dad sent me his notes, his written notes, because I love a written note, showing that there's quite a lot of carryover between guests in ways that I really didn't even expect. And so, for context, everybody, what we're going to do, we're going to go through a little bit episode by episode. And I asked AI because it's there and it's super interesting. So I typed into AI, here's all my transcripts. Thanks, Papa. Can you give me a memorable or profound quote and the most useful or practical advice and life lesson from each episode? And honestly, the AI is so interesting what it pops up with. And I thought that I would see if you would agree, Papa, with what the AI has generated.
That'll be interesting.
It will be interesting to see. So, episode 1, you graciously chatted to me and interviewed me, which was really interesting. The most profound quote that came up for the AI was a quote from myself, which is, movement fills me with joy and purpose. And I don't know, I think that's a really nice place to start, actually. That's quite That's quite beautiful. And we're talking about movement therapy in the first episode. And the most practical advice is that movement therapy is individualized, it's adaptable, it focuses on coaching people to connect with their bodies and address their physical and emotional states. And I think in terms of starting a podcast, starting the intention of what I was doing, I think that's pretty spot on. I think that that's all of the practitioners who I've spoken to in terms of movement therapy. That's kind of where it is. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think from the notes that I actually did write, which I did send to you, I think that's a fairly common theme that movement should be, it's different for everybody. You can take a little bit of that. Each person has their own, I guess, ideas on what movement is, but you can take ideas from other people, and it should be joyful. It should be something that you should have fun doing. It should not be monotonous. I think I'm probably a little bit guilty of that, I suppose. I tend to be fairly rigid in some of the things that I do. I don't go to the gym that often. I probably might go once, maybe twice a week if I get the chance. And yeah, I know I've had the trainers there tell me, you know, how to use the machines and all that sort of thing. But I think my muscle memory is not that good. I'm one of these people that needs a bit of direction, I think. So,
For sure.
and if I don't have that, I'll probably tend to do the same thing. I get joy out of it. Don't get me wrong, but I think it can be. You should always be trying to seek something different as well. The other thing that I get a lot of joy out of is swimming. I don't really swim. I just do a lot of laps, walking up and down. And I think the thing there is also connection with people. There's always a lot of people around, and so I think that was another common theme, I think, from the group exercise aspect of it, that you connect with people,
Yeah.
not necessarily just your trainer or coach, but with other people that are doing maybe the same exercise as you or are just in the area. And I think that's part of the whole thing.
For sure. For sure. No, it's a good start. And I'm glad that you shared a little bit about what you do, because I think it's important. Everyone thinks that you have to do so much, or, exercise can be the same, like very similar machines, because if that's what you feel safe and comfortable doing, that's super important. Like, there's no right and wrong way. And funnily enough, that leads perfectly into
There you go.
episode 2, where we had Guillaume, G, as I like to call him, the Frenchman. His profound quote was, "If my client leaves better than they walked in, job done." And that's a great one. And that's definitely something I try to live by. And I think that that is something for people out there who have a coach, or even like a massage therapist, or someone who they go see for their health and wellness. I think that that's a really important factor. 9 times out of 10, you want to leave better than when you walked in. Because, and maybe even more than that, 99 times out of 100, you don't need to kill yourself every session and feel like you're really, really, pushing every single session to feel it. What do you think?
Look, from my point of view, I think that's probably right too. I've never really been a gym junkie as such, or I used to do a little bit of running and things like that. But I think I'm a little bit like you. I don't like running, and that might have something to do with perhaps a heart condition that I have. So just not that way aerobically inclined. So when I go to the gym, and if I wanted to do, I don't know, half an hour on the treadmill, I always felt really tired after that. It was probably just too much. So I think doing maybe not as much, but doing that different variety of things is probably more fun because you get more variety.
Yeah.
And it's less strenuous on the body, which means I could probably go back the next day if I wanted to, rather than maybe not for 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's a really important lesson. Yeah.
So I am feeling better after doing that. So, and I've taken a lot of what some of your guests have actually said.
That's so good.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, we're going to keep going because I've got some fun things. Episode 3, and OD, Movement Yoda, Ian, whatever we're going to call him. He comes up a lot. He's here once a month, and I love how much time he gives for this. You can just see how excited he is to talk about things, and that's what I really love talking to him about it. And his first one is probably, I remember him saying this to me when I was a baby trainer, and he says, emotion changes motion. And it definitely goes the other way around as well. So it's like emotion is motion, motion changes emotion, and the complete other way around. And we have to stop thinking that they're not linked, because they are, and science is proving that they are. But even if we forget the science, if you go out and go for a walk, again, 99 times out of 100, you feel a little bit better. Even if you've just gone around the block, you feel a little bit better than when you left. I don't know very many people who don't feel better after exercise. I don't think I've ever encountered it. The only times I've ever encountered is when they've pushed themselves way too hard and maybe spewed in a bucket or something like that, which we don't want to do, which I'm not a
No.
advocate of. And this is where you talked about interoception, because interoception is the ability of you to be able to listen in to, what am I feeling? Am I hot? Am I cold? What am I sensitive to? What's happening in my gut? How do I feel to the person in front of me or around me, or all of those things? And he wants us to be aware of our inside feelings way more than I think that we are in everyday life.
Yeah, I think Ian's a very interesting guy, and that is an interesting concept, I think, and it's probably hard to practice sometimes. But I think you do get. I think if I'm planning to go to do something, whether I want to go swimming or go to the gym, and something is in the way, I do feel that I haven't really achieved it, and not kick myself or whatever. But yeah, I feel disappointed that I haven't done that. So when I do, or if I get the chance to make it up, maybe an impromptu walk or something like that, with my wife, with your mother. Hasn't happened a lot lately because she's just recovering from a knee replacement surgery. But that's sometimes, if you can't get your regular sort of dose and you've missed out on that emotional, I guess, uplift,
Yeah.
you can try perhaps doing something else later on. I guess it's not being about having a program and
Yeah.
stick to that program.
Yeah.
So just be maybe adventurous, and obviously you've got time constraints and employment gets in the way and that sort of thing. But yeah, if you can just decide on the spur of a moment, oh, let's go out for a walk, and then we do it. It's great. Mum turns the music on. We're sort of just popping along and just walking along.
I love that. That's so
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
Really cool. There you go. Team, life advice. This is important. Okay. We're going to keep going.
Can I give myself a new term, a life coach then?
Yeah. And you know what? 20-year-olds on Instagram call themselves that. So you definitely have earned the title. You've at least lived your life. So,
I have.
all right. Emma, episode 4. She's our group therapist, and you did mention her briefly.
I
And
did.
her quote is, you can have those kinds of visceral reactions going to a fitness class, but if you don't know that, you don't know that you can. Like, you don't know that you can have that. And this is where I think it's super important to give something a try, regardless of what you originally think of it, because she talks about group exercise, in particular about being about self-love and being an empowerment tool, and forget about exercise for aesthetics or for weight loss. Go for your mental health, because if you go for your mental health and you start to love what you do, then it's not a chore anymore. It becomes that fun thing. It changes your emotion. It leads really well off from what Ian said. And those two following on from each other are really profound, because they're talking about changing what exercise is for. And I think that is such a big and important theme that we want to carry through with Meant to Move.
Yeah, Emma's a very interesting person. I know Emma through you, of course.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's good to get that extra little insight into her personality, a very bubbly personality, and she's right about that visceral experience, I guess. Yeah, try and do something new that perhaps challenges you, and see what happens. If you don't like it, you don't have to do it again, I suppose. But
Mm.
and that group. Yeah, I haven't done a lot of group exercise as
I
such.
forced you along
Uh,
to a few of my things.
you, You did. I'm not saying it's not my go, but perhaps I just maybe I should get out of my comfort zone, perhaps a little bit more often and do it. I know the gym that I go to does offer a lot of diverse classes. Some of them are a bit too early in the morning for me. I think that's the problem.
No,
But
I think you have a different tribe that you connect with, and you are a very social person. Being social at the gym, you talk to everybody there. And I think that's a little bit different. We all have our way of kind of interacting in that social ability. And I think Emma loves group exercise because it kind of stemmed from that musical theatre performance
Yes.
background. And I get why people don't necessarily connect with group exercise, but I think what I see more and more groups of men doing, which I think is super important as well, is I live in Sydney with really great access to like a 7.5K walk around beautiful water. It's called the Bay Run. And they're just groups of men walking or running. That's social exercise. That's changing your emotion. They're having a chat. They're going for a walk. And I think traditionally that's not something that you would have seen a group of men doing. Let's go for a walk, guys. Like it's really nice to see that change for the better so that people can have more social interaction with exercise or movement, whatever you want to call it, which I think is her point, really.
Yes, I think you're right. Yeah, that's all. What it's all about, really. I know people that are, like you mentioned, walking, cycling is a good one for that too. A lot of people, I was going to say men, but there's a lot of women that do it too as groups, and there's walking groups. A neighbour of mine is in a walking group,
Yeah.
and that'd be quite interesting too. But yeah, so it's not just about that exercise group in a gym, is it? It's more diverse than that.
Yeah, wholeheartedly. You also, on your notes, I know you made special mention of this. Episode 6, we had Emily Splittrell. She's our foot podiatrist.
Yep.
She was so interesting. Here's her quote. Anytime you are working muscularly, you are working harder than you should be. And that's where injuries come in. And she's referring to walking in this instance, which is, again, how good was that segue, by the way? She talks so much about daily consistent habits, which is how she developed her foot brand and her foot and hand sensory awareness innovations and tools that she's got. And being mindful of your body, being mindful of your feet, being mindful of where you place things, being mindful of how you walk. It's a great message and a great lesson because, again, like walking through the city or even, again, like on the Bay Walk, I see half the amount of people with their head up enjoying their surroundings, and I see the other half of people with their head in their phones. And it, you might get distracted initially by your phone, but it would be so great if we could put that down a little bit more and just connect with our body.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that episode too. When I think she also mentioned walking speed too, which was really interesting because I mean, if I go for a walk, a brisk walk, I can probably do it at least a 6K an hour pace.
Mm-hmm.
Your mum, Danny, my wife, Danny, has always said that I'm a much slower walker than her. And in reality, I am, except when it comes to that, then I can definitely outpace her, I think. But so that interested me, that aspect, but also that being outdoors, just enjoying and walking. I think sometimes we just walk around the block or around the local area and it's fine. But there's been the odd occasion when we decided, oh, we'll do something different. And I think it actually arose because we had to be somewhere very early in the morning, and then there was like a medical appointment or something, and we were like finished at 6:30. It was winter or late autumn, and it was a beautiful morning. And we walked around Princes Park here
Great
in
spot.
Melbourne. It was just so beautiful. There were people everywhere running. The sun was coming up, and it just so serene and beautiful. It just made us feel really good.
Again, super underrated, that presence in that beautiful moment. Really nice. Thank you. That's a great one. Episode 6 with Mr. Stir the Pot, my now husband. My goodness.
Yes.
He
Yeah,
definitely.
What a day that was. Yes.
Yeah, he definitely stirred some things with his episode. His first quote is really him because he said it to me many times. If you love something, find a way to fit it into your diet. It's just how much you have. And his food journey is less about restriction and more about, make sure you enjoy your food. Because if you enjoy your food, then it's easier to eat healthy. It's easier to be healthy. And big ups for fiber. He is now dubbed the Fiber King everywhere he goes because people have been listening to his episodes. And I really like how he brings that mindfulness to food because food is so important for movement.
Yeah, it is. Wouldn't be here without food, I suppose. And look, I admire Michael with the way he goes about the food in general, I guess. He's cooked for us a number of times, and is amazing, and an amazing cook too. But he's always very careful and measured with what he cooks,
Yep.
because he takes into account that the fiber content and the nutritional content, which probably I would take for granted in most cases, and probably we would tend to cook more than what Michael would cook, but it's always sufficient,
Mm.
I guess. And he speaks about volume and stuff too as well, which it's probably something that we would never think about. As an Italian, we always cook more rather than less.
More
And
pasta.
well, not
No.
necessarily more pasta, just a bit. But I think we've also, as we've gotten older in life, I think we're trying to, and again, maybe it's Michael's influence as well, I don't know, but trying not to make those meals as voluminous as what they used to be, or trying to, or not fill your plate up as much. And if there are leftovers, we can have them
Yeah.
the next day. So don't get the urge to finish what's on the plate, perhaps like used to do once upon a
For
time.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
Recall those lessons.
and yeah, and yeah, and we try and have the fiber in our meals, as well as the vegetable content. We eat a lot of legumes and things like that in the salads and so forth. So yeah, perhaps not to the extreme that Michael and yourself do, but
We've made some
like
impact.
we have made some
We've
impact
made some impact.
along those roads.
Love
Yeah.
this. Love this. OD, here he comes again. He's coming around. His profound quote: pain says no more. And I think this is a big one for me. I work with a lot of clients in pain. And in this episode, we were talking about assessments and appraisals and metrics. Pain is the biggest metric in your body, and everyone goes through pain. Everyone has moments of pain in various different ways in their body, and we can ignore quite a lot of them. Or perhaps we're taught to ignore quite a lot of them, through the way that kind of society is. But pain is our key awareness danger sign, and it's so important to pay attention to that.
It is. And over the years, I've had sort of a lot of back pains, nothing really structural as such. And as I'm older, I guess it's just the usual sort of wear and tear. So I get a lot of muscular sort of pain from time to time, which restricted my movement, and I'd get some treatment. And I probably didn't really think about exercise as much as a way of treating it. Back then, probably I would do more so now, but I think I don't get as much pain as I used to,
You
actually, because I
don't.
think I am moving more.
It's
There was
ironic that, isn't it? Right?
It
It's
is.
yeah,
I mean, there was one episode, and you might recall it was about 3 years ago, Vanessa, when I had that really bad, and was described as nerve pain to
yeah.
me, but I'm not sure that it was. Then it ran through my right leg, through my right buttock, then my hamstring to my knee and to my shin and calf, and probably really severe around the shin and calf and knee area more so than anywhere else. And I was really restricted, and I couldn't really do anything. It was just so painful, and I was struggling to get over it. I was seeing an osteopath frequently. It wasn't doing anything. I couldn't really walk. And I think you helped me through that with some exercises, and also perhaps a different sort of treatment, and also a different mental approach to say that it's not really suffering structurally from anything, and there shouldn't be anything wrong with me. So I can actually walk. It might, maybe my mind is thinking that it's painful, but yeah, the more I persisted, and I did get some treatment from a physio, and I had some dry needling, and it all helped. But I think a lot of it was, I guess, just overcoming it mentally, and just getting through it until I was fully recovered. But it did take a few months, but that was probably one of the
Mm,
most painful episodes I've ever had, and a very valuable lesson, though, that don't sit on your ass and not try and do anything,
mm,
which I did initially, because I just didn't know what to do,
yeah.
and the medical experts didn't really know what to do either at the time.
Yeah. And this is so common, it's hard. It was hard for me to come and treat you face to face because we live in
Yes,
different states, but it's really common that pain is so restricting and it's so damaging physically, emotionally, and mentally. It takes so much capacity from you because you have to rethink everything that you do in your life when you're in pain, and it doesn't get enough content or awareness in general fitness. But I work with clients mostly who are in pain. They're like that. It's kind of the main issue that I work with, and it doesn't matter what type of pain it is. There's a whole range of pain, and I'm not sure why we aren't talking about it in fitness as much as we kind of should be, because everybody goes through it at some stage. I've gone through multiple weird and wonderful episodes of injury and some strange flares from my Hashimoto's and my hypermobility. And, Michael and I deal a lot with pain. And I think that this is such an underrated area. And I'm so glad that OD is really great at talking about it. And we'll talk more about it as we go. But he's so great at bringing awareness to it. And I just wanted to really highlight that, I think, as a moment for me, a moment for us all, that if you're in pain, like, we hear you, we see you. There are ways for you to get out of it. We hope you can find your person, or, reach out and we can help you find your person. Yes. Thank you. Now we move on to, here we go, Sarah. I love Sarah's quote. She's our foreign correspondent. It's like the longest quote that the AI gave me, and I think she'll giggle when she hears that. Her quote is, "What works for you might not work for me. What might not work for the other client." So it's really important when you're taking and digesting information that it comes from a credible source, and that you've also looked into different approaches of the same argument. Here's what we're talking about. Just because one practitioner doesn't necessarily know how to treat you doesn't mean they don't know how to treat people. They just might not know able to help you at that time. So it's time for you to go and look and search for another credible person. And Instagram and social media can be a good place to start your research, but that's not research.
Do your research, people.
Yeah. And so I think we use this term, I've done my research. We use it quite flippantly. What type of research have you done? Have you read a book? Have you gone to the author's, have you gone to maybe even the Instagram or YouTube person's website? Do they have any information about where they get their information from, or where they're trained, or how much training they have? And again, Sarah really highlights such an important piece, and she's a journalist, so she loves this side of it. But make sure the person who you're using for coaching, learning about your body, does the same thing for themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's interesting, I suppose. And the fact, I guess, you mentioned that she's a journalist, so that's why she would say something like that. And I can understand that, because I come from a background where I had to research a lot of things, not in fitness and health and that sort of thing, but in my work as a customs officer. So the thing is, never just trust one source, never trust your initial source. You're always looking for corroborating evidence, and that it has credible, the person has credibility, what they're saying has credibility, and it's corroborated by not just one or two, but lots of other, multiple other sources. Because sometimes you can find things that you're looking for if you want to, and then you sort of satisfy that need if you don't look any further.
Echo chamber.
Yes. Yeah. So like you said, be aware of Instagram, Facebook, and all that sort of thing. Yeah, you might have to dig deeper, and I know not everybody's into sort of digging deeper, but yeah.
It's so important.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is why we do this podcast, so we can dig a little deeper.
Yeah.
Okay. Next up, I had Jessie and Reese, my fellow colleagues from Techno Gym. You got to meet Reese in person.
I did. Yeah.
That was cool.
It was lovely.
Yeah.
As soon as we saw each other, I said, "Oh, that's a familiar face." But oh, you're from the podcast. That's right.
Well, I can't remember who said it, because there was two of them on the podcast, but their quote from their episode was, "The testing is dependent on whatever my goals are." And we're talking about metrics. We're talking about how do we measure progress? How do we move forward? And there's no point in measuring something that you don't need to measure. Be specific about what it is you're tracking, what it is you're measuring. Ask yourself why do you measure certain things? Or maybe ask yourself why you're not measuring certain things. Things like fiber, or your daily steps. I've had several clients who I've asked, how many steps do you do a day? And they're like, I don't really know, I don't really track that. And I'm like, well, that's a really easy one to track that can give us some pretty instantaneous understanding of what your day is like and whether you're getting enough activity, and whether if you add more activity, that's actually beneficial for you. It's like really simple cause and effect, and we can measure it within a couple of weeks, and it's not expensive. So sometimes it's actually a matter of, do I have the right measurements for where I need to go in life as well?
Yeah. Personally, I probably don't use a lot of measurements, but not now. Not that I'm retired. In my work days, I certainly did. But in fitness and in health, there are, as you know, a lot of different measurements. But which one is best for you is up to you, and perhaps your coach or your practitioner to help you decide on that too, I guess. And so, what Reese and Jesse said was super important. Have your goals, and and you can measure against those goals. I mean, I've got an Apple Watch, and that's it gives you basic measurements, I suppose. One of the ones that I look at is the sleep one, not that religiously because it can be, I think, a little bit misleading, that one. But you mentioned steps. Steps are an easy one to measure, and I think also, I think if you have a little bit of a reward at the end of that measurement, I think it helps.
For sure.
We have an app which is called the Qantas Wellbeing app, which it aligns with your steps, and you can set a goal, and if you achieve that goal, you get a couple of Qantas frequent flyer points. It's not much. It's
Better
sort of
than
like
nothing.
it's like a little reward that you can achieve every day, and you're getting something for it. So
I like that.
I like that little one.
That's a great one. That's a nice little habits. We look for rewards in our habits, and if you can add a reward that doesn't mitigate the actual act of the thing that you're doing, then fantastic. Yes.
Yeah. So what happens there sometimes if we haven't achieved the number of steps, and we're, I don't know, 1,000 short, I'll walk around the kitchen bench for 20 minutes.
That's so good. That's what I did today, except I didn't walk around the kitchen bench. I just jumped up and down in the living room while I was watching my TV show.
There you go.
Yeah. So same thing, everybody. Okay. Right. Number 10. Dave came on. He is he's a powerhouse of interesting information. Detox expert, essentially, is what we were looking at with him. And this is cool because this quote, the AI picked up this quote from two different people, really similar quote. But Dave said, knowledge is power, application is king. If you don't apply it, you're just not going to feel the benefits of it. And is 100% right, because we know that quote, knowledge is power. But we know, and we have access to so much more knowing than we've ever done ever in the history of humanity. So if we all knew, why aren't we doing?
Yeah. Yeah, that's very interesting. And I think, knowledge is power, but you're right, if you don't apply it, but that also requires discipline to do it, I think. And not all of us are disciplined enough to do it, because you mentioned habits, because we're in the habit of doing what we do. And even though we know that maybe that what we're doing is not 100% good for you, we're probably, too ingrained in it to get out of it. So it does take discipline to change. And I admire you and Michael with sort of taking those things on board. I'd like to think that we've done a little bit along along that track, but I think, I think this generation's sort of more switched on in terms of that. And Dave, he says a lot of very interesting things. I think one said was, what you put on you goes in you as well.
Profound as well.
We take that, I guess, for granted. Everybody uses deodorant, and everybody uses aftershave or whatever else they might use. And I'm trying to steer away a little bit from that. It's hard. It is. I reach for the bathroom cabinet and there they are, and cleaning chemicals and things like that. There are alternatives out there, but they're probably, for a lot of people, maybe not attainable because they're more expensive and harder to find. So I think that's the challenge, I suppose, is to make them more available and perhaps cheaper, so that people have an easier choice to make.
100%. Yeah. And that's exactly why we do what we do, to help bring that change across. And I think this is the time where now the podcast is really starting to, we start seeing some parallels. We've brought Emma back. We're on episode 12, and we're talking about breathwork. And her quote is, my teacher says that no matter what, there's a breath for that. And that's a great quote, because again, it's the little things that we forget about. It's like you're talking about, I reach for the deodorant, I don't even think about it. You breathe 30,000 times a day potentially, and you don't how many times have you ever brought awareness to your own breath? And there it is. There's a very big breath there. But like just taking notice is the start. You don't need to change anything just yet, but can you just take notice of it?
Yeah, I guess you can. It's another of those things that you take for granted. Yeah, I found her episode quite interesting when you go into it quite deeply, that you could get different sensations out of the different breathing methods, if you like. I probably just tend to use breathing as a life thing. No, but no, when I'm training, when I'm in the gym or even at the pool, yeah, I try and have that methodical breathing. So that you're inhaling and exhaling at appropriate times to help with what you're doing. But I think, and I'd like to do it a little bit more, but yeah, I'm trying different breaths just to slow down at home and not to think too much about anything else, rather than concentrate on the moment and the breath that you take, and then it probably mentally it'll take you somewhere else that perhaps where you haven't been. I know you've done some breath work just recently that you've spoken about, so that must have, and you had some, I don't know, you'd probably almost call it out of body experience.
Yeah. I won't go into that detail because it'll take me on
No,
too long of a
take you too
tangent,
long.
but go have a
But
look at that if you haven't seen it, everybody. But
yeah,
yes, that's the idea. You got to try it. And there's very little consequence to a lot of the things that we're talking about. And I think this theme has come up repeatedly for me is the things that we're saying, go ahead and try. Most of them are low cost. Most of
true,
them have
they are.
very, very, very small risk profile, if any risk profile at all. And these are the things that change your life, not the big expensive things, not the I have to change everything in my life. It's the small things. And if I'm moving on to the next episode, the interesting thing. So Michaela, she's a women's health expert. Her quote was actually, it's applicable for everybody. It's, we want to meet people where they are. And it stems so perfectly from what we're talking about, because you're talking about, you have to try, we're trying to, just use little things, not from the cupboard. I won't use my deodorant today because I'm not going anywhere. Or maybe I can choose a non chemical deodorant or something like that. Choose the smallest thing that you can do today, not the biggest thing you can do today. Choose the smallest thing that you can do today, because the smallest thing is the most achievable thing. And that's what I try to instill in my clients is I need to meet you where you're at. If you've got work that's driving you crazy and you don't have any time, even if you potentially you do, but if you don't perceive that you have any time, I have to meet you where you're at. I'm not going to give you an exercise program that goes for an hour. Why don't you try 2 minutes of movement a day? That's it.
Yeah, her approach is quite interesting. And I think also the difference between women and men as well was something that I found quite enlightening. As a man, you probably don't really think of all those things that a woman goes through in various days. Each day could be different. I should know that from my daughter, my other daughter who lives with me. But I can see how that could affect um,
Training.
how
Yeah.
you train, how you do anything in life. So what she said is, yeah, just meet you at where you are, and just do what you can do, even if it's in small doses, which leads on to someone else, I think. But anyway, but
We're getting there.
you're getting there. But yeah, she was just very informing and calculating as to how you should be self-aware of where you're at as well.
Yeah.
And which other people also touch on, of course. But if you don't feel 100% on the day, you're not going to do yourself any favors by trying to, um, do what you would normally do.
Yeah.
You have to take a step back, and
Definitely.
and then when you're feeling on top of the world, and for whatever reason, then maybe you can go a bit more flat. So each training session shouldn't be the same, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although if you just go to an all-purpose gym or whatever like that, you probably don't get that. Yeah.
We can help you. Don't
Yeah.
worry. We'll help you learn.
Okay.
Okay. This episode number 14, we're getting it. We're getting here. We're getting through. Yannick, our calisthenics expert, his quote, maybe the whole point is actually not having the end goal. Maybe the point is to just keep chipping away at a goal that's constantly in the distance so that you keep going forever.
Keep changing the goalposts.
It's cool.
It's, yeah. Yeah, I think that makes sense actually, because nothing is static ever. You might have a goal, but yeah, once you've achieved that goal, what are you going to do? What are you going to do next? And like you said, even if you haven't achieved that goal, maybe set it up
A different
a,
way.
a different way or a bit further, so that you never quite get there, but you're always striving to get there,
Yeah.
or you do something completely different like calisthenics, which is crazy from what I've seen you do too. Yeah.
Very cool.
So that's not just in exercise as well. That's just in your life.
Yes.
I think if you just set a goal and you achieve it and you're happy, well, maybe not long after that you won't be happy because you've got nothing else to strive for.
We're having some profound moments here as well. I like it.
Okay.
Episode, I think I've missed an episode. Oh, no, I haven't missed him. Here he is. He's here. I
Okay.
found him.
There you go.
I found Ian. This is where we had the double up. And AI, you're very smart sometimes. Guess what? Ian, knowledge is power. Application is king. If you don't apply it, you're not going to feel the benefits of it. I told you, two different guests, same
There you
quote
go.
is super
Yeah.
interesting. So I want to keep going, but
Yeah.
OD, you know,
And
is all I'm.
OD is he's like he feels like an old friend that we keep coming back to now.
I know. Yeah, he's great. Okay, back to stir the pot, Mr. Fisher, Mr. Michael Husband Fisher. Same quote. What are you doing to me, AI? If you love something, find a way to fit it in your diet. He must have said the same thing twice, and the AI has picked it up
Did.
and told him to do it twice. Okay, this is the pitfalls of AI, everybody. But what I will say is on his second episode, we talk so much more about instead of looking at your diet and saying, what can I take away? What can I add that's going to make me feel better? What can I add that's going to give me more nutrition? What can I add that's going to give me more polyphenols or whatever it might be? And honestly, it's so much of a better approach to overall lifestyle nutrition.
It's interesting, very interesting, I guess, to add rather than take away. And I like that because I'm an Italian and we just like adding things to make it taste better and whatever. Sometimes we don't think about the nutritious side, but no, that's an excellent way. But if you have that mindset where you're, you know, trying to have a healthy diet, and nutrition, and so forth, and I think he also says that you can treat yourself
Yeah.
every now and then because you are doing such a good job at maintaining a proper balanced diet. Even with every meal, you can treat yourself. He can add something that's enjoyable to his dish, or it could just be a simple thing like a bit of dark chocolate at the end of the meal, which we tend to do a lot of that, and you're not having a dessert as
Yeah.
per se, which is rich in sugar and so forth. And we don't have a lot of that. There's you can. There are many ways to add things into a diet
Yeah.
or just reward yourself at the end of a meal
Yeah.
without actually you know going over your I don't know what your
Just making
calories or
it,
your
yeah,
or your
just making
sugar.
it too
Yeah,
much. Yeah. Yeah, for
yeah.
sure. I wholeheartedly agree. Episode 17, we touched on it. John Sinclair talks about microdosing movement. I love his quote. We get old because we stop playing.
I like that very much because I'm old for a start.
And I'm going to interject. Do you know how less old you move and look when you play with your granddaughter? Honestly,
Well, yeah,
it's true. It's truth. And I see it in action and it's so cool to watch. And
it,
because it's play.
it is play, and it's a like you wouldn't think of it as perhaps movement or exercise because you're doing something that you enjoy, but it really does keep you active. I'm on the floor quite a lot with her. The day that we have her crawling around, crawling after her, or just interacting with her, picking her up, and you do all sorts of things that you probably wouldn't be if you went to a gym or something like that.
Exactly.
And it's playful, and you're not doing it for long periods of time. So it's also that microdosing that he talks about. Yeah. So not everybody has that opportunity, of course, to be able to do that with a grandchild. They might not be at that stage of their life,
Yeah.
but you can probably find another way to do it. Go out with some
100%.
friends and throw a ball or something.
Frisbee.
a frisbee or something like that, which sometimes COVID, I think, was a good one for that. We had my other daughter Olivia and her husband Nad living us, and sometimes we go to the park and he'd bring a soccer ball. And I can't play soccer for the life of me, but I was there running around and it just felt like a bit of playtime,
It is.
really.
Recess for
So,
adults.
and yeah, I mean, and I think the other thing that John said, I think, is that age is no barrier.
Mm-hmm.
So just, don't think of yourself as being too old to play. Yeah, just get out there and do something. Play well.
Okay, from Gary. Now, Gary Ward is quite big in the functional fitness space, and he said the body is always working at 100% all the time. You don't lose everywhere. If you lose joint motion somewhere else exploits it. I like that 100% thing, right?
Yeah, that's interesting too. And I think you don't realize it, I suppose, but even if you're just sort of twitching your seat, you're moving muscles, and sometimes you feel it. But the other thing too is you said that so you might be stiff on one side and more flexible on the other side too. I think
Yeah.
was that
Yeah.
Gary? Was that Gary?
100%.
Yeah, and personally, I know that's true with me. I'm much more mobile on one side of my body than the other. I can, extend or bend much further on one side. What he said about waking up sleepy parts of the body, I think that um, is a different way of looking at it. That you should perhaps concentrate more on that side where you're a bit stiff because, yeah, maybe it's just overcompensating for the one that's a bit more flexible. I
Or
don't
the
know.
other way around.
Or the other way around. It's just, just playing off each other, aren't they? And I think he also talked about gait as well. So
Yeah, he is a barefoot man and he is a big walker.
if you tend to favour one leg more than the other, that's gonna affect a lot of things, a lot of other parts of your body.
I just looked at the last quote. It's going to be the perfect spot to finish. OD. He just that's why I called him Yoda. That's why section is called that. But he said in his last episode when we're talking about programming, fitness programming and everything that's associated with it. And his quote is, "You're happy because you smile. You don't smile because you're happy."
Yeah, I haven't really thought about it that deeply, I suppose, but yeah. So you're happy
because you smile.
Because you smile. Yeah, I think you take that for granted, don't you? And I probably you can go back to Lola, our little granddaughter, because she smiles a lot and she does funny little things that makes you happy and makes you smile.
Yep.
And it makes you happier.
Yep.
So it's not even just within yourself. It's when you see it in other people and other people are talking to you and smiling. It's a whole chain reaction, I suppose, of things that happen.
I try to do this experiment when I'm walking sometimes that I will smile at people.
Yeah, and it works.
It
because
works.
I think it does work. I think if you're walking along the street, I think it's great to acknowledge other people and with a wave or a nod or a smile. Inevitably, they'll smile back, and so you're getting that energy between two or more different people, and it just it is a good feeling.
It's catchy.
Yeah, I think you can be just so focused on what you're doing and not aware of anybody else. And maybe you might be having good thoughts and it makes you smile, but that's great if you can do that too. But maybe that's the way you should approach it when you're training by yourself in the gym. But we don't tend to. But yeah, I like that.
I like training and smiling. I'm not usually smiling, like just smiling, trying to make myself happy. I'm laughing at myself because I've probably fallen over and done something hilarious. And instead of getting mad at myself, I'll just laugh at myself instead because I think it's a much better approach.
Yeah. Well,
but it works.
You do smile a lot and laugh a lot with people, which the way you interact is great. But not all trainers are bred the same, I've got to say.
Well, look, it's not about not being authentic, but we smile for a reason, and it changes your physiology. We talked the first quote, emotion is motion, and the last quote essentially is him saying the same thing, that you don't need to feel something first to change it. Or maybe if you feel something, then do something and it can change. It's this beautiful symbiotic circle that you have influence over, that you can change, and that's interchangeable as well. So I think perhaps that's a way to look at it.
Yeah, well, you get back to Dwyer, though. He's so passionate and he's so jovial in his approach that it's infectious and it makes you love it.
Yeah.
It makes you, like I said, he's like an old friend coming back, and you just smile along and go with what he's go with.
Laugh along with his like excellent chuckle
Yes,
at his crazy stories. And yeah, that's the
yes,
way to go.
yes.
Well, Papa producer, thank you so much for your time and for being coerced again into coming on the podcast.
Well, thank you, thank you. It's been a nice little conversation. I didn't know how this was going to progress. Hopefully, I don't know, imparted some of the things that I've learnt along the way. I'm not as eloquent as my daughter, but
I don't know how that worked. I'm definitely not eloquent. I think I just talk myself in circles. But no, it was great. Thank you so much. And we will chat to you next week.
okay. Bye bye.